what would you say would be the first step that people should really focus on to begin to grow the business and not be stuck in that role where you're doing everything?
Looking and doing research. It always comes down to this. Look at the 10 companies in that space and simply go look at their good Google reviews and their bad Google reviews.
What are the systems that a business owner should be developing, like CRM, email, funnels, different type of systems?
Processes equal profit. That's what they should write down. And what you want to do is start to think about, what is my biggest restriction or pain point right now, and build a process to solve it.
What should people be looking at in terms of margin?
Revenue is the body of a company. Profit is the heart. That's the life force. I want to create revenue as fast as I can and profitable as fast as I can. And then the only thing I want to watch after that is profit times the multiple that I could sell this thing for. From day one of starting, I want to know that thing could be worth 10 multiple times the profit.
Hi, everybody. Jose Luis Morales here. Welcome back to another episode of the Residual Real Estate Agent Show. Today, we've got a very special guest. His name is Mike. I'm going to do the best I can to pronounce his last name. Agugliaro.
Agugliaro. You're so close. So close.
Thank you, though. So he is actually a serial entrepreneur. He's owned multiple businesses. He's previously sold a company, Gold Medal Service, which was doing $32 million in revenue, CEO Warrior, which was doing $40 million in revenue. And now he owns a company called Food Dog Group, which is a mentorship for business owners, how to superhumanize yourself to achieve anything that you want in life. Today, Mike is going to be taking us through the journey. If you're looking to get started in building a business or starting a business, things that you should look for in terms of getting started, sales, marketing, operations. He's going to take us throughout the whole thing. Welcome to the show, Mike. How are you?
Great to be here, man. Super excited to serve all the listeners.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I met you at a Mark Evans event, and before that, I didn't know who you were, but after connecting with you, obviously you're somebody that I respect tremendously. For our viewers out there who don't know who you are, who is Mike, and how did you get in this wonderful world of building and selling businesses and obviously mentoring entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I mean, let me take it back a little bit. First, I'm just a normal guy. I've been on my own very young, since 15. And just trying to figure it out. I went to a vocational school. I became an electrician by trade. So any of you that are tradespeople, I can relate to the hard work that it takes. And from there, I just figured out, you know what? It seems like everybody I worked for, I got to be able to do it better than them. They didn't seem that smart, and it wasn't that fun working for them. And that set me into a business of starting electrical contracting business. And you know what? When I started it, I thought I could do it better than them, and I really just became just like them. I didn't know any better. Did that for about 10 years. And then I found out, wait a second, I don't have skill sets to grow a company. Like, to think you're going to make it up along the way, it doesn't work that way. And what I did was I started, probably one of the first big things for me was the Dan Kennedy. Most people may know Dan Kennedy. He's like the godfather of marketing. I went to a training he had, and he asked everybody, like, what business are you in? I was like, electrical contracting. And he was just setting me up for the kill. He goes, no, everybody's in the business of marketing. And that was a big shift for me, man. Like, when I started to then say, okay, wait a second, marketing is, and I'll give you my definition, is emotionally moving people from where they are to where they want to go, to where you want them to go. I started to say, well, wait a second, maybe I need to become a marketer. And that's what I did. I became a world-class marketer. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. If you don't know how to sell anything, then you'll market, have customers, but you don't even know how to serve them in a way to make a decision. So then I said, man, I got to master the art of selling. But I didn't want to do it in a way that ever made me feel dirty. Like, I think there's a lot of people that teach sales and you just like, it's the used car salesman. I wanted to be from a serving perspective. And then I thought I had that all figured out. And then guess what? I found out like you could get a lot of customers, get a lot of team members. I had 200. In 2017, I had 200 employees, 165 trucks all over the state of New Jersey. But if you don't know leadership, everything, you'll make money and lose it. You won't. So I learned that those three things were three key fundamentals: marketing, sales, and leadership to learn. And then I thought I had that all dialed in. I thought that was good, man, like big company. And then it clicked. Wait a second. There's one thing that most people don't focus on. They spend all this time on, marketing, sales, leadership, business building. They don't spend time on growing themselves. And that's what I found from my difference of my journey over time to success of growing empires is I took a portion of my money and said, you know what? I'm allocating this to grow myself, because if you want to 10x anything, you have to 20x yourself. And that's not about thinking positive. So there's a little bit of my journey there, and we'll dig into some fun stuff now.
And I love that, because I see so many people that want to get into business. I see so many people that end up getting into business, and the business ends up kicking their butt. Not only that, but my parents were business owners, but they never really built the business because the business could never run without them. Basically, the moment they stopped working, the business was done. So they really had a high paying job. And even in my industry as a real estate agent, most agents aren't business owners. They have a really high paying job. So that's why I'm excited to have you on the show, just because I think that you've been through all of the different levels already, from just starting the business to learning sales, marketing, to leadership, and then the personal development side. So if somebody is looking to get started in a business, like, are there certain businesses that they should look into? Are there certain businesses that are easier to scale, or are there certain businesses that they should stay away from? How does somebody go through that research process? And then we can get into like the sales, marketing, and operations aspect of it.
Yeah, I'm probably going to give everybody a little different perspective, but I get what you're saying about your parents. Like, we call that a dancing bear business. That's like a business that can't run unless it can't make money unless the bear's dancing, and it's very hard to sell a dancing bear business. I think the first thing goes, and I want everybody that's listening, make sure you got a pen and paper, okay? Because I want you to write stuff down. I'm not kidding. Like, get a pen and paper, right? We could see you. Not really, but just do it anyway. Is movement. Write the word down, movement, because one of the things I always said was a movement is an industry or something you want to step into because you want to make a change bigger than anybody else could. And if you don't have that and you just go to where money is alone, eventually your own mind will probably destroy itself from either complacency, boredom, fatigue. Anybody can make a lot of money at something, but if you don't love it and you're not trying to make a catalytic change, it will catch up to you. I watched it happen for so many people. But if you define a movement, and then I'll go to step 2. And let's say the movement, well, let me use myself as an example. When I was growing a service company and decided to really grow it from under $1 million to 32 million in less than a 10-year period, I wanted to change the way, my movement was I wanted to change the way in New Jersey, how employees function, how service was delivered in New Jersey. I mean, our plumbers, HVAC, and electricians, right? White button-down shirt, black belt, black pants, black boot, look good, smell good, talk good. Like, this was unheard of. When you think of a plumber, you're thinking flannel shirt, scruffy face, and butt crack hanging out. You're not thinking a guy with pearly white teeth, like a knight in shining armor. You're not thinking that. That was a movement. And I want everybody to listen, because I'm sure we got listeners that want to start something or doing something. If you're doing what you're doing for over 10 years and you have not evolved from that, you are stuck and complacent, not growing. And that's what happened for me. I was like growing this company 10 years in. I'm like, wait a minute. Let's realize what's happening. I'm growing. And every time, I don't know about you, Jose, I get around my friends. They're like, how things going? I'm like, amazing, growing. I'm like, how about you? And they're like, yeah, it's okay. This is bad. I'm like, I don't want to share my success no more because I feel like they're not having it. Which then it clicked for me. I said, you know what? The next movement is, and I created this company called CEO Warrior. So if you know any plumbers or HVAC guys that are scruffy with butt crack hanging out, please send them to CEOwarrior.com so they don't have to behave like that no more. And I stepped in there to change an industry, change what they would call the blue collar industry forever. And I did that in about a 5-year period. I shifted the way the contractor space, all the way from Australia, Canada, New Zealand, all over the United States, on how a plumber, electrician, HVAC guy would function, act, behave, grow, treat his family, like all of that. And then it changed again. And I'm making a point for the industry because if you don't get this right, you'll have temporary satisfaction. You'll get temporary money. When I grew CEO Warrior and I changed an industry, guess what? I knew that I did that, but now the world's suffering. Now I'm going to other people that are like, yeah, okay, you did that there, but I'm a dentist. What about me? I'm a chiropractor. I'm an attorney. Like, yeah, you're helping plumbers. Good job. Their life's better, but my life is not better. And I'm like, evolution into creating food dog groups. So number one, it has to be something that's burning inside of you. It has to be a stance. It has to be a stance that you're ready to take and say, I'm going to change it. Now, should you do that if it's like collecting rocks or something? Well, I don't know if there's money in that or licking stamps, but I got to tell you something. Probably if you're looking to make an impact in a world, there's probably money in there. And there's always room. Anytime, and I hear this all the time, like people say, yeah, well, I don't enter that industry because look at the size of that company. Well, let's make a point. Walmart and Target. Okay. Home Depot, Lowe's. Like, and then Sam's Club, BJ's, Costco. There's always room in an industry you want to change to step in. And what I would say, and I'm sure you invited to hear knowing I'm a little intense of a guy, stepping in and punch that industry in the face with all the love and caring because you want to move it further than anybody else has ever moved it. Is that a good start for us here? Or?
I love it because where my brain was headed was more into the financial aspect of it. But the reality is that if you're not passionate about it, and it was funny because as you were saying that, it was making me think about like, okay, what is the movement? And it's so real because if you just do something without falling in love with it or about being passionate with it, it's going to, and you end up going to burn out or you're not going to be able to get to where you need to get. So I was thinking about some sort of movement of standing behind and changing something, which in my mind, I'm thinking like changing the real estate industry or the way that real estate agents act or behave. Cause I feel like a lot of us need help and a lot of us haven't gone to where we had the capabilities of going. So let's say that somebody does start up a business, does find a movement that they want to get behind. I mean, most people start thinking about how to design the logo, how to do business cards. What would you say would be the first step that people should really focus on to begin to grow the business and not be stuck in that role where you're doing everything? Because I feel like a lot of business owners get stuck where they're the person doing the marketing, they're the salesperson, and then they become what I call a solopreneur.
Yeah, let's chunk that down and let me finish closing a loop on what you just said before. My wife and I were just on a walk. We live the Jersey Shore down in Seaside Park. The ocean's right there, the bay's over here, and we're walking. And she said, hey, did that realtor ever call you back? We were looking for a place to hold an event. I said, no. And we both looked at each other and said, this space is pretty broken how these people think. And maybe that offends some people here, but I'm going to tell you, every industry can be broken through to a whole nother level on how they think and what they do and how they do it in the way. And man, I'd love for you to be the one. And I hope this show changes the way because, and then another person like I'm a guy, and now I'm probably going to get a bunch of Facebook messages from like, I'm a guy that doesn't need to go get lending, right? So if I say, find us a house or find a property, you probably want to work hard and go, here it is. Cause this guy doesn't need to get my wife and I don't need to get a mortgage on it. We're just like, here, buy it. Even if I don't use other people's money like that. Cause I hate the whole nonsense. I'm like, here's the cash buy, and then maybe I'll do some other creative stuff with it. As for now, we got the industry. What do? It all comes down to looking and doing research. It always comes down to this. Look at the 10 companies in that space and simply go look at their good Google reviews and their bad Google reviews. Their bad stuff is going to be all your copy and your positioning to build the company to solve a problem. Like, let's say, and I don't know if this is true or not, let's say it could be for some of my world. Let's say that realtors, the industry is people, you can't get them live on the phone and they never call back. Could be a possibility in that space, right? Well, if I hear that about everybody, my positioning to build the company is the company where we always answer the phone and call back in 2 minutes or less. And it's like, okay, that's great positioning. Now, if I look at the good Google reviews, like, oh, they're friendly and they're kind and they're nice, then I go, okay, cool. Be nicer, be more friendly. So that's got to start there. Then we look at a lot of people. I was just saying this to someone before. They were saying, oh, I'm going to build, what about this name of this company? I'm like, how'd you come up with that name? Like, did you just sit around the barbecue grill and think it? The name is strategically built from the positioning. And I'll give you a great example, the way I tell everybody to think about this. Like any business I'm building, even today, I look at, imagine like a football field, right? And the whole field's filled with these like, the kitty yellow balls, they dive in the ball pit. So it's all yellow balls out there. And you look out there, all you'd see was yellow. But if I took one black ball and threw it in the middle of this sea of yellow, you look out there, you won't see 10 million yellow balls. You'll see one black ball. That happens with like the reconnaissance of sitting there and doing the investigation. Now, when I do this, you would probably, if you were filming me, you would think this dude is crazy because like I'll be printing stuff out and I'm like taping it all over the wall and I leave one spot in the middle. It's like the movie Clash of the Titans. I say it's like the blind witches are like looking for magic. That's me. I'm just like staring at this wall looking, and then you go, no one is saying this. It's like and look at when you nail it, how old is the Domino's pizza? 30 minutes or less. I think it's decades old. And people still think that today. And if you think about the positioning of that, like if I'm going to call a realtor and like, when are you calling for me, right? Because I own a 10,000 square foot commercial building, 15,000 square foot. Me and my wife own multiple homes. When we are driving around and we see something and I call, I want someone now, not tomorrow. I don't want to leave an answering machine. I want someone to say, I realize if you're interested, you probably think you have money. Like no one drives through Beverly Hills and calls on a property like, oh, I'm just curious, and they make $50,000 a year. Like it's rare. They got money. They're like, oh shit, babe, look at this house. That might be good. And you're like, my wife goes, well, why don't you call now? And I call and I was like, leave a message or hang on. It's like, oh, hang on, I'll get you on with one of our. And I'm like, okay, that was super friendly. Not at all. Like most industries, you could just break a new paradigm in them by just evaluating like even how they present themselves like on the phones and everything else. So that's the step, right? Then I go to, there's a lot of technical things for anybody listening. I don't want to go too deep. It's like, when I was building Gold Medal Service, my wife, we were working on colors. Now we had a lot of vans and trucks, 165, right? So if you're in New Jersey, Gold Medal Service. And we were looking at colors. And then my wife says, yellow is a great color. And we ended up making the trucks yellow and black, which yellow is the first color the eye can see. Now, my wife's got a brilliant brain. She always comes out with these cool things. We've been together since we're 15. I'm level 52, so it's a lot of years. And our trucks were yellow and black, which is like a bumblebee. So pretty sure God or the universe got that right. And you wanted to see that sucker coming at you. So we're good. So you have to go then, even on the logo, like What's the shape? What's the color? And here's the last thing I'll give. I'll open it back up for you. What's the emotion you want people to feel when they see this thing, think about this thing, or use this thing? That one thing, how do you want them to feel is a change on how you can grow and scale a business. That's why I've been able to build empires faster than most people.
So the position, you know what I love about the positioning? That type of research applies to anything. Like I was thinking, like if I want to get into real estate coaching, you look up 10 real estate coaching companies, look at the bad, look at the good, solve that problem, make that your messaging. You look at real estate agents. What are the good? What are the bad? It's a You look at a restaurant. Hey, I had to wait for this, or the food came out cold, or 30-minute wait time, or 45, or certain things as well too. That process basically applies to any sort of business that anybody wants to get into. And then it comes down to what you said, the positioning, like meaning like taking that information and creating a message and having everything kind of coordinate. It was funny because at the Mark Evans event, I was actually talking to one of your students. I can't remember their name, but they were part of CEO Warrior. And they were showing me how like all of their trucks and everything was congruent with each other, all the colors, all the website. And he was giving me some feedback because he was like, look, like I can't even see your logo on your website because it was like really small on the left-hand corner. And it was everything from that. So like, let's say that now we have our positioning down, and obviously we know what type of industry that we're getting into. What would be the next step towards growing the business?
I'm a big believer, like I am a blitz by force, right? I'm a position by force. It's just in my DNA. And what happens is you want to slam into a market where all of a sudden you show up where they never expected you to show up. Now, a lot of people don't realize, and Jay Abraham, super smart guy, friend of mine. I trained with him one-on-one for 3.5 years, highest paid consultant on earth. And he has a theory he taught me. And he said, look, if you want to grow faster than ever with $0 out of pocket, just do this. Find affiliate positioning marketing that you can go to. They have a list of people that are non-competing. That's where you go. Build some kind of collaboration with them, and you literally could turn a dial and turn up the heat like that quick in any industry. But today it's also nice. Like I was on an interview for someone else a couple of days ago. I say, do you realize what it used to be like? Now you're probably younger than me, but my world, and I'm honored to be in that world, so I'm not complaining, but my world was a beeper. Like I remember having a beeper. And you still had to go to a payphone because there was not cell phones. And I was part of the world with the first cell phone, which you could kill a human with, right? Today, you could dominate Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. You could like dominate so many things so fast, like boom, and nobody sees it coming. But you know what, Jose, here's what they do. Everybody tells me they're working hard. And then when I'm up at 11 o'clock at night and I am hit, like I'm doing a webinar tonight. Like if you look at my post today, you will see I am a machine gun, relentless pursuit. Why? Because I don't want anybody to suffer. And if I don't post enough, I can't serve the movement to change lives. And that's why I bring it back to here. No matter what you do, when you have that movement, you have the drive. There is no, when anybody says, oh man, I'm glad it's Friday, I'm like, you just don't, a lot of your life sucks, doesn't it? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, the fact you're saying, thank God it's Friday, means Monday through Friday has a lot of horrible things in your life you're doing. My wife and I were like, it could be Sunday and you could be like, hey, want to jump on here and serve people on Sunday? I'll be like, yeah, I'm eating dinner at 5. Can we do it at 4? Like it could be 12 o'clock at night. Hey, you want to stay up late? I'm like, let's do it. My wife, I might be flipping burgers doing something like this. And my mom doesn't understand. She's like, you're always working, Michael. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I haven't worked in a decade because I love it so much. When you love it, you'll do the social media posting and you'll hit it. Now, look, if it's a business, I mean, real estate, we'll use that because you can relate. Real estate can easily go Facebook, which is like look at Facebook like the news of today, right? It's like the newspaper of today. LinkedIn is the players, okay? Facebook, everybody news. LinkedIn, these are the players. These are the business makers and shakers, right? So I play in both of those worlds. YouTube, a mix of both. They're the consumers of knowledge. I want to watch things, learn things, consume things through video. TikTok, quick punch entertainment. Now, don't do them all. Do one, dominate, and start moving right into the next one. Those are the fast. Affiliates and social presence, hands down. I don't care if you want 10, 20, 30, 50 million.
So when you said affiliates list, what does that mean? Like you said, like there's a list of affiliates.
Let me give you an example. If I'm a realtor, which I've thought about this before, it would probably be fun. I think I could sell probably 100 million pretty quick. But to the point is, I'll tell you why. Because I would go.
I think you could too, by the way.
I could, right? I should just do it. I should just do it. My wife will say, you do not need another, because I have this addictive behavior, which means like I'm doing martial arts over 35 years. Like anything I do, I don't golf, because if I started that, I would have to master that game of that little white ball, right? But if you look at affiliates, okay, plumbers, HVAC, electricians, let's just use them as an example. They're fixing homes. Is there a good chance that someone going to sell their home? We'll use real estate because you know it. Is there a good chance they're going to fix a bunch of stuff before they put it for sale? 100%. Is there a chance that they may not know who is going to sell it for them? 100%. Well, why don't I go to every plumber, electrician, HVAC, kitchen remodel, bathroom remodel person and say, I have a feeling you end up in a house fixing stuff before they sell it. Is that true? Yes. How about every time you fix stuff and they say they're going to sell the house anytime in the next 5 years, you connect them with me, I'll help you and you'll help me. Because guess what? It's not the short-term game, it's the long-term game. So even if they say, you know what, we're going to sell it in 5 years, make the connection for me. I'll keep that relationship for 5 years and then I'll sell the $1 million house or 200,000, whatever the hell it is. I don't know if anything's 200,000 today, unless you're living in the hood, maybe. Like everything's $500,000, million, 5 million. But now look at that. That is what we call partnerships, affiliate type things. Now, watch this. Me, let's say I still own that company and you reached out to me and said, Mike, you gave me that whole speech. So you probably know people. And you said, Mike, I'll tell you what, I get 5% of every home or 8%. I don't know what people are getting. And you said, I'll tell you what, every home that comes from you, I sell, I'll give you 1% for doing nothing. I have 30,000 customers I serve a year. My database was 125,000 customers. You tell me you're going to give me Hey, by the way, anybody watching this, if you'd like to give me a percentage to get to a list, hit me up. We'll work some magic. Me and Jose, we'll do some stuff here. I will immediately go, hey, let's do a webinar and let's get out to 100,000, 200,000 people that every person they refer, we're going to kick them back 1%. This is because of the way I think. I've been able to enter any space, take down the biggest dog in there, the one that thinks they're the cat's meow. I sell 200 million a year. And I'm like, okay, you haven't had me going against you because I will light a fire under you. You'll wake up one day and wonder what happened. But everybody can learn that. It's not about me. I'm not even impressed with myself. So people listening, don't put me on no pedestal. I'm not worth it. But here's what I will tell you. All of you can do this stuff. Hopefully you took something away from this you're going to do and come back to him and say, man, that one episode made me 100,000 and if it did, put a small donation to a charity, please. Help somebody that is struggling to help themselves, okay?
So what you're saying is once you have the positioning and the industry, it's all about knowing how to attract business back to you. Basically, main thing is how are you driving business? How are you driving revenue to the company? And you're saying that either through affiliate or social. So now let's go over like the social side. Like what would be an example of social? Is this like more organic type of content, or is this like direct to a specific type of customer where you're paying to stay in front of these customers? And if so, what would the offer look like, and what are you expecting from as an end result? Is it to just build the database, or is it people that are looking to do something now, or a combination of both?
Yeah, well, I think it starts organic based on budgeting, right? So most people are going to start with an organic push until they can get a funding enough of money that they could put in and get a return, dollar in, $10, $20 out. So I think that's part. Positioning is to say something in a way no one else has ever said it before. I think I've probably demonstrated that when you saw me speak on stage in front of 350 people. Like I look at what somebody says and I say, is that true? Like most of you listening, people go, hey, you're going to become like the 5 people you surround yourself with. No, that's a lie. If you put me around 5 broke people, I don't become broke. They become rich. It's a complete lie. But they made you believe that. So when you go to the positioning, it goes back to that, what we took, like what is something no one else is saying, and then burying it so deep in their mind. It's like the fastest response realtor on the planet. The most strategic response. Like so many people are like, sell your home. I want to know, like, they don't say the things like I want to hear. As an affluent, probably bracket, like, I don't want to know that you're just selling it to anyone. I want to know that you're selling it to the right people, right? I want to know that you care not just about this, that you want relationships. I think there's so many things, and I know we're talking about real estate, but I could talk, doesn't matter if it's chiropractor or dent, it doesn't matter to me. I could talk it in any industry. So once you have that going on social and you start building it, I do believe at one time they said riches and niches, which used to be a theory. If anybody's ever heard it, that meant like own your one thing only, which meant, okay, so you're a realtor, commercial strip malls only in this area. And they would say riches and niches, only do that. That's an old school belief. The world is now conditioned that you have to be a one-stop shop. I'll tell you why. And then I'll tell you how I learned this years ago. So first off, if you go to Walgreens today, or Target or Walmart, like you could get food, you could get vitamins, you could get your eyes checked, you could get the flu shot if you believe in that, you could get your taxes done, one-stop shop. And when I was building my service company and I was teaching them, I said, you know what? We have to be like my dad and my Uncle Louie. Everything that anybody ever needed something, my dad said, oh, let's call Uncle Louie. Louie knows a guy. And then you could tell I'm Italian, right? Italian family. Uncle Louie knows a guy. And I would go, we always call Uncle Louie. And I said, wait a second. Maybe my company, every time someone calls, I should be the guy. So people would call and go, random, it'd be like, oh, is this, do you got a pizza place? It's like, no, but I got a pizza place for you. I got a guy. And we would do it. If someone made a mistake and said, oh, do you fix window air conditioning? We didn't. No, but I got a guy. And with that whole thing let me summarize it. You need to create an environment of everybody, a list of as many people as you can, knowing that all of them are going to want something. They're going to need a guy or a girl to do something. And if you're that person, you're the number one. And I'll tell you, I don't think in my whole life of buying properties, selling properties, ever did I have the realtor say, no matter what you need in life, you come to me first. Now that relationship that's a positioning, right? That's a positioning. Because if I knew that I needed a doorknob fixed, a handyman, I'm going to do landscaping, that I could call you and you got a guy, when it comes time for me to sell, I'm only coming to one person because you got a guy. And that's a mind positioning and a wealth positioning for people who want to scale. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, it actually makes a lot of sense. What I was thinking about too is as it relates to the positioning, like, do you make some sort of guarantee as well too? Like, because I think when I was talking to one of your students, they had almost like a positioning. I think it was like a guide, and it talked about colors that they use, lettering that they use, font that they use, and I think they had a couple of guarantees as well too. Is that part of the positioning process? And if somebody wanted to learn more about positioning, who would that guy be that they'd want to connect with? Would that be somebody like you, or is there a book that they can read on positioning?
Yeah. So, branding document is what he was probably saying, which so I built hundreds of brands, world class brands. And when we're done with a brand, we would build the document that says the color, the shapes, the sound, the fonts, everything about it. So I could take this and bring it to any company that's going to do website marketing, and they would go, oh, I got it. This is exactly what that company needs to look like, feel like, and act like. So that's the first part. As for guarantees and that type of thing, that's all about positioning. Like for us, we did lifetime guarantee. What plumber does a lifetime guarantee on a faucet? Nobody. So that was a positioning for us, right? When I was running events in the CEO Warrior business, I did a guarantee. If I don't make you easily $1 million or more, okay, or blow your mind by the end of the first day, just walk up to me. I will give you 100% of your money back. I'll pay for your airfare, and I'll even cover any crappy food you ate in the airport. That was a solid guarantee. I mean, what risk do you have? Now, I never gave back in growing that company 7, 8 years. I never gave back $1 because like we blew their mind. Who would I send you to for this type of understanding? Well, one, I probably got a guy, so you can reach out to me. But if you go on Amazon, I think I've written 18 books now. The latest one's called Mind Power, but all other 17 of the books I've written are all business books. And if I would recommend a book, buy Secrets of Business Mastery. And look, I don't make any money. Actually, I make no money off the books, that books at all anymore, all the business books, because I sold the company. They make all the money. But the Secrets of Business Mastery book is a book that I wrote. It was a published book. It's in Barnes and Noble and all this stuff. That book for business understanding of knowledge, positioning and stuff, it's a world-class book. And if you get the book and you think it sucks, send me a middle finger on Facebook and I'll give you the whatever $20 back or whatever. But it's a really, really good book. Besides that, if someone wants to get real strategic, the only thing that I do today, so everybody knows, I only do two things. I do Food Dog Group, which is that's a company that we work with high level people like you that know that you have to break through yourself in order to have the life you want. And the second thing is I have a company where we take equity in companies. If somebody wants to grow and scale and exit in 3 to 5 years with legacy style wealth, I help people with that. And then I would work with the branding and positioning. Otherwise, they would have to reach out to me and I would see what kind of network or somebody I could position them with.
So now, like, let's say that we have built relationships with vendors, we've built our positioning. After that, what are the systems that a business owner should be developing? Like CRM, email, funnels, different type of systems.
I think when it comes down to systems, everybody should write down processes equal profit. That's what they should write down. And what you want to do is start to think about what is my biggest restriction or pain point right now and build a process to solve it. Now, yes, you do need an email database system like ActiveCampaign, or it's not Infusionsoft anymore. It's something else. We use ActiveCampaign, and you do maybe need a resource. And I don't get anything for sharing this stuff, but maybe something like a ClickFunnels or GrooveFunnel or one of these things. You need some of those basic structures. Here's what I always say: I like to cut the curve as fast as I can, which means I'm starting a new business. I know I'm going to need some infrastructure, like you said, CRM, something to build a funnel in. I just go to an expert who does this and say, I'll buy an hour of their time. And I'll say, during that hour, can you tell me today, if you were to start a business, what would you use for email marketing, social media marketing, SEO marketing? What would you use? Who would you use? And I would capture that. And that's how I'd move forward with them. As for systems and processes, those you have to start to learn how to create in your mind. Anybody has a company with, you know, doing a million, couple million, bunch of employees, you should have every employee understand how to solve a problem by building a process and implementing it into the company.
That's awesome. It's funny because when you look at a a solopreneur, most of the process and systems are in their head, so therefore they can't teach anybody else to do it. What about hiring, Mike? Like I know that this is a problem for a lot of people. Sometimes people, or a lot of the people starting off, not somebody like you, but what about hiring good people, and maybe even just some tips on maybe hiring your first employee for somebody out there looking to start?
First, don't buy into what everybody is saying that there's a lack of employees. There's like 7 or 8 billion people on earth. There's no lack of people. There's only lack of thinking of opportunity. Most people, the biggest thing about the employee is they never get clear of exactly who do they want. A lot of people talk about avatar, customer avatar. They never talk about employee avatar. I would grab a sheet of paper and write down exactly the skills you want of this first employee, what they look like, where they live, what they drive. Are they family people? What age are they? How do they like to eat? How do they think? What skill sets? When you build this, now you have an exact thing to go out there and find them. And social media will be a super fast way to do it because everybody knows somebody looking for another opportunity. Yeah. And as I got a little bigger, I started to do what was called hiring experiences, where I would invite, you would love it. It's super cool. I think the biggest one I did was 90 people in one room in 1 hour and created almost like a speed dating version of interviewing 90 people. People were selling things, like competing against each other. My team was fighting for who they were picking. It's kind of like a Wolf of Wall Street of recruiting. I mean, it was just nuts. But it was efficient because we would interview 50, 60, 90 people in 1 hour. If you were doing one-on-one interviews, 90 interviews, oh, half your year is gone. But I think there's a lot of ways based on where you're level in your business that you could scale and move quicker.
What are some of the challenges that you see most when people are looking to grow businesses, or like some of the challenges that are common challenges that you see in business owners, and also like at different maybe levels of business as well too?
So first off, it's them. And I know that sounds like maybe you're saying it's common sense, but it's really not. A lot of people have money blocks and they sabotage themselves, right? Because when I always use the same example, when you were a kid, you probably found like a quarter on the ground. You showed your mom or dad, probably your mom, you're like, look, I found it. She's like, oh, good job. Now go wash your hands. Money's dirty. And you think that's not a programming in you, but it's programmed. The second thing is the theories that you've been taught to grow a business. It's going to be a lot of work, more employees, more punishment and problems. No, more employees, more money, more people, scalable business. So like so many people have all the mental blocks, and that's the first thing that I find holds people back. And the second thing is they're trying to model generational experience. Oh, my dad or mom came over on a boat, they grew a little bit. So that's your model. You don't think you could break past the paradigms of what they did. So there's a sense of belief, there's a sense of getting rid of past programming. Then there's the sense of how do you scale? Now let's talk about what are the cycles of problems. Well, first you got to break $1 million. Okay, you got to break 1 million. Nothing starts to really change until you break $1 million. Then there's a thing called dips and curves. So if this is 1 million and this is 3 million, there's a dip here. Because if you break 1 million and you don't have a way to manage money, you'll never get to 3 million. If you don't have a way to manage customers, you'll never. So from 1 to 3, you need a CRM system. You need a management system. You need a QuickBooks or something. When you go from 3 to 5, there's another dip. And what I learned, there's dips from 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, 7 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25, and then after that, it starts to jump by 10 millions. And there's changes. Now, your goal is to cut through the dips and curves. And how do you cut through it? Well, one, don't try to figure it out alone. Like I've invested, and I'm not saying it to brag, so please do not take it this way. I could have got the information less, I would. I mean, in the last 18 years, 15 years, I spent 2.7 million on my own education. It's a lot of money. People would go, "You're nuts." I go, "Yeah, but okay, but you know, I sold a 32 million and a $40 million business. Like, is that really a lot now?" They're like, if I said, "I'll build 2 empires, hand it in your lap, give me 2.7 million," you'd go, "I'll go get it tomorrow." Most people are not, they're not have a balanced investing. They invest in their business wisdom knowledge. They don't invest in their selves knowledge. And you could only evolve business knowledge at the ability of your own thinking to evolve, which means the first thing you should be investing is up leveling yourself so that the business knowledge can get executed faster. This is what I solved over the last couple of years now of looking back going, why have I been able to do this? Look, sell one big company. You know what? Jose, lightning strikes, they say. Oh, impressive, but lightning strike. Sell 2 in 5 years. You can't say it's lightning strikes no more. You got to say he probably figured something out. And when I look back at the cycle, I say, here's what I figured out. I never stopped investing in my personal growth first, business growth second. Because of doing martial arts, I was bred that way from the beginning of personal mind understanding, belief understanding. And most people don't realize that trauma, guilt, shame, and anxiety and these things, how much it holds them back from their greatest potential.
Yeah, it's almost like what you're saying about self-sabotaging. Like they start to experience a certain level of success, but deep down inside, there's something in their subconscious mind that eventually doesn't allow them to get to where they want to go to. And what I also find interesting is that for a long time, I made the mistake of taking all the proceeds from my business and investing it into real estate, which wasn't a mistake because the real estate has gone up tremendously, but I basically starved my business. But now recently what I started doing is I started hiring consultants. I started doing what you're basically saying to do. Had I done that earlier, I think my business would have grown a lot faster and I would be in a different position where maybe the business wouldn't be as reliant on myself. But what you're saying about finding somebody who's already doing that and paying them is so true. And I'm glad that you're saying that because I'm part of Mark Evans' DM family, and that's how I met you. You know, so it's like you by investing in yourself, you get connected to different people. Now you're on a podcast, obviously sharing a lot of different things with us as well. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and like so the power being in Mark Evans' world. Great friend of mine, super smart guy. Actually, I'm honored to have spoken there because a whole bunch of people from there are now came into my world in what we call the Freedom Tribe to up level themselves because they said, "Man, if I'm up leveling here and I up level here, what could I do?" Well, a lot of people don't step back and everything they have in life is by default, not by design, because they never get someone to help them design it. See, if I'm in a group and I'm asking people, I'm saying, how can you help me design going to this life that looks like this? Not having 1,000 properties, not like help me design the blueprint to get to 100 million, 500 million a year, or and also live in this place and live this lifestyle with this. This morning I was thinking about that when me and my wife went for a walk. We walked on the beach. I was sitting there saying, like, I think I even said it in a live video I did. I was like, this is life by design, not by default. When it's by default, you have chaos and confusion and you have pressure. When it's by design, you have the exact way that you want to live. And I think that's something that everybody should write down. Like, are you building your life, your business, and everything by design?
I did want to ask you though, how important are sales in a business, and how have you been able to structure different sales teams, like in terms of like compensating them, culture, keeping them accountable, motivating them, training them? How have you? How are the different sales structures that you've built at your companies been to obviously scale the companies?
You can't really motivate anybody. They can only motivate themselves. Unless I pull out a 45 or an AR and start shooting over your head, I probably could motivate your ass to move a little bit. But besides that, the way that I always look at sales, and in my culture, just so you know, I wouldn't allow anybody to use language of selling, closing. I forbid it in my companies. I always said that it had to be serving, because when you come from this selling perspective, it can feel very aggressive, abusive, lack of integrity. If you come from serving, knowing, like I knew in my service business, like if we didn't do the job, I didn't think anybody in the world could do it as good or as safe as we would do it. And that created, and you weren't born like when you were a little kid and you started to walk and your mom or dad said, "Hey, bring me the ball." You didn't say, "Do I get a lollipop if I bring you the ball?" Like there wasn't a sale. But if you said bring the ball and you brought it over and your mom hugged you and kissed you, you learned what serving was like. Not to, so you were born to serve, not born to sell. And I know my belief is probably different than a lot where, you know, this world has become very one time transactional guided. Close them, close the deal. And I'm in the lifetime transaction. And the lifetime transaction business has always worked out very well for me because I don't want one time transactions. I just got off a phone with somebody you would know. I won't say it here publicly, but, and I said, just so you know, I'm not looking for a client. I'm looking for a friendship. If you don't enter this, if you're just entering my world because you want some bell widget or piece of knowledge, don't enter my world. I'm at a state in my life I don't want that at this state. I want someone to enter my world because they're like, I know being in your world with what you know about creating superhumans that I could get in the next decade way more than I would have ever thought of possible to getting. So that's the first part. Now, as for incentive programs, I'm going to give you a little creative thing I'm going to share here. And if anybody is in the plumbing HVAC business or anything like that, check out CEO Warrior. I don't own it no more. I am a shareholder though, but they have a lot of cool stuff. But I'm going to share a story with you guys. They have these because I'm in martial arts. I don't know if you ever seen them. These exercise balls, like you move them in your hand. They're just round silver or gold balls. So I say I'm going to build a competition for my team. Now I was predominantly male driven plumbers, HVAC, calloused hands, rough people, right? Hardcore people. And I said, what would make these guys really drive for this incentive to hit this target? So I go and I had a pair in my drawer of these yellow gold exercise balls about that big. So I went in front of probably about 40 men at the time, and you're gonna love this. And I said, okay, here's the target, here's the competition. And they always say, what are we gonna get? And I said, oh, you're not ready for this one. Let me share it. And I pull out and I go, you're gonna win. They called me Mike A because nobody could say my last name. Right. My wife and I were just talking about it. She's like, no one says it. I said, you're gonna win Mike A's golden balls. And they freaked out. It's $10 thing. They fought to win this. Our sales went through the roof. And the guy that won was like acting like he had my own balls in his hand or something. He's like, I got Mike A's golden balls. a $10 thing motivate to drive them? I could have said you're going to win $10,000, and it would not have motivated them as much as those $10 golden balls. Now, some of you might find that silly, but you should find it pretty damn enlightening of what you're doing versus what people really want. And I know a lot of people probably, oh no, it's all about the money. Well, I had 200 employees. It's 32 million a year and probably over 500 million in like 3 or 4 years, 5 years. And guess what? Only a very few were about the money. It was the combination of a little bit of gifting and a whole lot of significance layered in with certainty. And that made a big difference on how we build all our incentive programs to help people. But we couldn't motivate them. They had to already be motivated. They just wanted to prove something to themselves. That's all they're doing. We wanted ownership that you're not getting sales for us. You're proving something to yourself that you're not sure if you can do.
What would you say out of those things that you mentioned was the most important thing? I know that it's probably all three of them combined, but I know it wasn't all about the money. Would you say recognition, not recognition, significance was more important than sometimes even the money, or what would you say to that?
Accomplishment.
Accomplishment.
Always a personal accomplishment that was built in the culture that you're not doing this for you. You're doing this to bring home a model to share with your kids of what you did. You were sharing an accomplishment so you can share an awakening. An awakening is because I accomplished it, I gain a whole bunch of new learnings. And you wanted to bring those new learnings to your family. And I know this is probably different than most people ever heard it, but like I looked at it from a real human behavior perspective on how I looked at this with everybody in my world.
One of the last things I wanted to chat with you about, Mike, was just in terms of like margins. Like, what should people be looking at in terms of margin when you're starting off a business, as you're growing a business, and as you're getting close to maybe exiting a business? Are there certain margins that people should shoot for? And what would somebody do if they wanted to improve the margins of their business as well too? I love the not the concept, but I'm a big believer in repeat business as well too. So if somebody was looking to build a repeat business, how would they go about building that type of business where customers just keep coming back and back?
Well, repeat business, and I hope everybody listening realize like we could talk like a half a day about every one of these subjects. Repeat business is all about the understanding or the connection that you're the guy. Like I'm only going to come back to you. And that means when they're ready. But most people don't keep in touch with their clients enough, their customers. They send a holiday card, maybe a direct mail. There's no personal like connection. We had a concierge division that would reach out just to check on the customer. How are you? How are things going? They knew about the cat and dog. They're always looking to make little, like I said to the department, if they call, checking up, and they're like, oh, you got a new puppy. We're mailing out dog biscuits and stuff like that. So that's that part. The other part about I like to get a company to profitability as fast as they can. Revenue is the body of a company. Profit is the heart. That's the life force. I want to create revenue as fast as I can and profitable as fast as I can. And then the only thing I want to watch after that is profit times the multiple that I could sell this thing for. From day one of starting, I want to know that thing could be worth 10 multiple times the profit or 20 multiple times the profit. And those are now, yes, you got to know conversion and average and all this stuff. But the number one thing that most people don't watch enough is the profit indicator, and that's the life force. So I want to get there. Now, when you go to sell, of course, you'd rather be showing an increased revenue and profit than a decrease. It's pretty common sense. But when it's by design and like, hey, we're like when I see people and they say, oh, I'm growing 30%, I go, okay, like how is this shown on paper? Should you be growing 20% this year, 30 and 40, knowing an exit's going to come instead of oh, 40%, 40%, a little economic downturn, 30, 20. Now you look like what? You don't have it figured out. They don't care it's an economic downturn. If you look at it by design and regulate it to grow at the positioning of what you're going to do with it, you'll be so much more strategic on it.
Here's the last thing I wanted to touch on. One of the things that you mentioned to me at the event is that you were noticing that you were helping people grow their businesses, but either they were getting really sick or a lot of them were getting divorced. And that's one of the things that you mentioned to me why you got even more passionate about starting this new company, Food Dog. Do you mind touching a little bit about that and just how your company actually helps with that, like why you were seeing individuals kind of go through that? Because I almost think like that real estate has a very high divorce rate. I hear that the law enforcement industry has a really high divorce rate. And I imagine that even some solopreneur businesses have high divorce rates or high rates of maybe getting sick at some point. What did you notice? What was happening? And what would you say is the solution that you have come up with?
Yeah, well, the first thing is because I was helping grow businesses for almost 8 years solid, that's what I lived, eat, and breathed it, is I watched my clients coming in and they're going from 1 million to 5 million to 10 million. And I'd get on a call and I'm like, you're knocking it out of the park. How's everything going? Then I go, how's the wife and kids? Oh, we're getting divorced. And I'm like, okay, what happened? Oh, we're not. Well, because now what happened is before when they were struggling together, they would stay together, they're struggling. But once they started to improve, and the guy's like, oh, I got a little fancier of a car. I'm driving a Lamborghini now, and now that little 20-year-old's paying attention to me, and I never thought she'd pay attention to my 40-year-old fat looking ass, right? So, but now she's getting attention, and now you forget about the relationship. You figure the person that has been through war with you doesn't matter no more. And I'm not saying some people can't stay together. I'm not saying that. Don't get me wrong. But I am saying that that started to bother me. The second thing is, I had a client, it's less than 2 years ago. He's been in my world for a long time. He's growing, scaling. He wasn't paying attention to his health. I kept saying, your health, your health. And he died. And he left a 14-year-old daughter behind. And I said, this is okay. So he's wealthy and dead now. What 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 was the purpose of all of it being wealthy and dead? And that's what started. And then COVID came in and started creating a greater catalyst for this. So what we did was I found out that one of the biggest things was like people, especially a lot of men, they go to these business trainings, but their wife may not be in the business. They get no training. So if you're not growing together, you're growing apart. That's just a reality. So what we did at Food Dog Group, because me and my wife are together since we're 15, is we said, let's create an environment where a husband or wife, if they're an entrepreneur, their own business driving, that their partner can come in and do training that helps them grow together, right? Help them learn together on things. Maybe the wife or husband that's not in the business doesn't need to know about marketing, sales, operation systems. What do they care? But they do want to know about how do I optimize my family life? How do I not be a slave to all the things in the house? How do I grow deeper in connection? And that's what we built at Food Dog. And I'll give you this last part. When I started to really look at it these last couple of years, I said, let's look at employees. Okay. When do good employees turn into bad employees? When their life spirals out of control. I knew it. I had 200 employees come in. I'm like, dude, numbers down, callbacks, what's going on? Fighting with my wife, we're separating. When do good clients become bad clients? Like client, 10 years, always paid their bills, never a problem. All of a sudden, it's not paying, not calling us back. I get involved. Hey, man, Bob, what's going on? Hey, man, I'm sick. I don't feel good. I'm fighting this, that, and the other thing. And my wife's leaving me. And I'm like, oh my God. So hang on a minute. Good employees become bad employees with life problems. Good clients become bad clients with life problems. And how do good business owners not grow a business? Life problems. So that's exactly what we did. We built a program where couples, individuals, they don't have to be a couple, can come in and optimize who they are, how they are, what they do, how they think. And it's not about positive thinking. When I was young, I was positively angry at the world. I was positive angry, but what did that do? So now we learned we bring people in our world, they'll evolve, they'll get rid of past shames and guilts in their mind, and then they can create a life that they never thought imaginable. That's exactly what we do at Food Dog Group. And I believe we cracked a code and solved it. I mean, Kevin Harrington, one of the original sharks of Shark Tank, said that. He said, crack the code. Jay Abraham said, we figured out what nobody's figured out for helping people. Mike McAlwich just gave me an endurance who wrote the Profit First book and Pumpkin Plan, said, you know what? We figured out how to create a life so you can have a business, not create a business so hopefully you have a good life.
Can you give us one example like of a breakthrough maybe that like one of your clients had, or something that was maybe holding somebody back and how that was affecting their life, or maybe just something in that parameter for our viewers maybe to get a little bit of an idea?
Let's talk about addictions. I mean, addictions, the one person, when we went back and started looking at it, because we do a timeline. A lot of people don't want to do it. We do a timeline and say, like, let's look at when you were 3. Oh, at 3, I believed in the tooth fairy. But at 3, I got slapped really hard because I was not a good kid. And we look at that. And one guy had addictions. He looked back in time. It was the only model he had through his life was his dad drinking to celebrate, drinking when he came home. And he became an alcoholic because of drinking. And until he had the reality of, wait a minute, this is not who I am. It's a model that I learned. And when we went back and redefined the model, the addiction goes away. Now, I can't guarantee, we're not doctors, we're not therapists, but I'm just telling you, when you reframe the way of thinking, it goes, wait a second, it's not something that I took on, it's something I was taught. And then everything changed in his life and his family. Family's no longer worried that the weekend he's drinking too much. And this is the same thing, right? And those stories go on and on. What about the money one? The money one is all of a sudden the client can't figure out, why can they not break through the next level? Well, everything they were taught, well, first off, they got punched in the face in 2008 in the economy downturn. And they've been telling themselves the pain story of 2008 till today. Whatever you tell over and over is going to create your reality. Until we taught him how to create a whole new reality and frame that to a point, it becomes a story. Look, if I had a computer and I knew there's a virus on this phone, would I put a brand new software, Microsoft Word, into the computer? No, the virus will kill it. Well, most people's brains have these past programmings that are killing everything. We reframed it. They grew their company 4 times in the next year. So, and I'm not going to say it's magical. It's not a silver bullet. It's not the like red and blue pill or whatever. It's the ability to want to do work knowing that if I invest in myself, I can change everything and anything in my life forever if you have the right people helping you. For me, I had to learn a lot of this. I started studying my own brain decades ago because I wanted to know what made me do the things I was doing. Like, it didn't make sense, some of the stuff I was doing. Like, what kept me stuck? What kept me angry? What kept me mad? I was on my own at 15. I couldn't stand the world. And I tried going to different things, and I'm not saying they're all good or all bad, so take it any way you want. I tried going to therapists, and they kept making me relive the punishment over and over. Tell me again how you felt when your parents fought at night and got divorced and you ended up on your own. Tell me. And it kept inflating the pain. So I had to go on a quest to understand how the brain works, the energy works, your thinking works, the programming works, to the point I was able to crack my code for myself. And I think a lot of people today, and I'm sure you're in the world with a lot of people, they're focusing on trying to teach other people. They haven't cracked themselves. I had to crack myself open and figure me out before I could ever help anyone else figure themselves out.
That is so true. Good, Mike. Well, I have enjoyed our conversation together. I've enjoyed our time together. Is there anything else that you think would be of value to our viewers, or any final thoughts? And then lastly, where could people get a hold of you if they wanted to get involved with anything that you have to offer, if they have any additional questions as well too.
Yeah, I would just leave people with this one thought. In order to 10x anything, you got to 20x yourself. If you go to fooddogGroup.com, you can get a bunch of resources, free training there. We do have a free Facebook group called Personal Growth and Mindset Mastery. The link's on the Facebook group. And now I'm on Instagram regularly now. I was not. I was always Facebook messaging, but now I'm conditioned to be on Instagram. So find me on Instagram or Facebook. I don't want this to be a drive-by. I'm not one of those people. If you respond to me on Facebook Messenger and Instagram, it's me. It's not some VA in a third world somewhere. It's me responding to you. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just telling you that's how I roll. So if you find value in this, or if you accomplish something, like hit me up, because I'm super proud of you. And I'm going to be a superhero for you. I'm not going to be one of those people that are going to downplay it. I'm going to upplay it. So anything you do, I'm proud of you. And I'm honored to be here. And I'm glad what you're doing for the world with this. And if this one episode doesn't make somebody a couple 100,000, well, guess what? They're not paying attention to anything.
Well, I appreciate you, Mike. For all of our viewers out there, this was episode number 129. We had Mike A., founder of CEO Warrior and Gold Medal Service, that we're doing 32 million and 40 million in revenue. He went over how to build a business, and lastly, how to super humanize yourself to basically take your life and business to the next level. Final thoughts for me. One of the quotes that he said: if you're not growing together, you're growing apart. That was a gold nugget for me. So I love that, Mike.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Appreciate you guys. Have a great day.
Boom.